All right, let's dive right in. If you've ever had a brilliant idea for a new product, you know that feeling, right? The journey from that first spark to actually getting it into people's hands can feel like a total maze. So today, we're going to break down the modern playbook, a clear, step-by-step guide to launch your product and really make an impact. But first, we have to start with a little dose of reality. According to the Harvard Business Review, a pretty staggering 95% of new products fail every single year. That is a huge number. Now, that's not to scare you off, but it is meant to ground us in the reality of the challenge. The truth is, most products, even really good ones, just don't make it.
So the big question is, how do you beat those odds? What is the secret sauce that separates the smash hits from the ones that just kind of fizzle out? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack here. This specific mindset and the actual steps you can take to land in that top 5%. Okay, so here it is, the number one reason for that massive failure rate. It's a psychological trap, and it's called the curse of knowledge. Basically, as a founder, you spend so much time with your product, you become the world's foremost expert on it. You get so wrapped up in the features and the tech that you completely forget what it's like to see it for the first time. You just assume everyone will get it. But here's the thing, customers don't buy your product. They buy what it does for them. So how do you fight this curse? Well, the answer is this simple but incredibly powerful philosophy. You can have a huge, world-changing vision. That's great, but the way you get there is by starting small. Instead of one giant, risky launch, the modern way is all about taking small bites, testing, learning, and building momentum one step at a time. Okay, so that brings us to step 1, where we make this real. This is where you separate your brilliant assumptions from cold, hard facts. Before you spend a dime on development or write a single line of code, you have to prove that people actually want what you're thinking about building. The whole point here isn't to build, it's to learn. And this concept right here is absolutely critical. It forces you to be crystal clear. Vague goals like, I want to gauge interest, are frankly useless. You need something concrete. A falsifiable hypothesis is a statement so specific that your test can only have 2 outcomes. Yes, it was true, or no, it was false. No gray area. And check this out. This is a perfect example from a real founder. Look how specific that is. It doesn't just say people will sign up. It defines exactly what a successful user looks like. They sign up, they create 3 applications, and they come back twice. That sets a super clear, measurable bar for success. If they hit it, great, they're onto something. If not, it's time to rethink. So how do you even test a hypothesis like that without a product? This is one of my favorite tools in the whole playbook. A simple landing page with a waitlist. This one for the messenger app Chanty is a classic example. It's not the product, it's just a promise. It sells the vision and asks for one simple thing, an email. The number of people who sign up is your first real piece of data. It's cheap, it's fast, and it tells you, point blank, if anyone actually cares. All right, so you've got a green light. People are interested, now it's time to actually build something. But hold on, not the whole thing. This is where the famous minimum viable product, or MVP, comes in. And the key here is to think of it less like a cheap, unfinished product and more like a science experiment designed for one thing and one thing only, learning. Yeah, the entire goal of the MVP is to get real feedback as fast as humanly possible. The question you're asking is, what is the absolute smallest thing we can build to see if people will actually use it? It's not about being cheap for the sake of being cheap. It's not being fast for the sake of learning. In this game, speed of learning is your ultimate competitive advantage. And this is such a great way to think about the feedback you get. If your first users aren't really biting, you need to know why. Did they dislike your specific solution, the carrot? Maybe the design was clunky or a feature was missing. Or, and this is the really big one, did they dislike the entire idea? Do they not actually want vegetables at all? The MVP is how you figure this out before you've cooked a 5-course meal nobody wants to eat. So, the million-dollar question, what actually goes into the MVP? It comes down to ruthless prioritization. First, you map out the perfect journey a user would take. Then, you brainstorm every feature you can dream of and throw it in a list. From there, you identify the one critical path, the absolute bare minimum a user needs to do to get value. And then, and this is the hard part, you cut everything else. Be brutal. All the nice-to-haves have to go. Okay, you've validated the core idea, you've built your lean MVP. Now it's time to get ready for the actual launch. And this is a big shift, because now you have to stop thinking like an engineer and start thinking like a storyteller. It's all about how you're going to communicate your product's value to the world.
This is one of my all-time favorite exercises for this. For every feature you've built, just keep asking yourself, so what? So our shoes have advanced cushioning. So what? Well, it reduces impact on your joints. Okay, so what? That means you can train longer with less pain. Getting better. So what? It means you can finally crush your fitness goals without worrying about messing up your body. See? That's the story. That's the emotional hook that people actually buy.
And you know, the classic, and maybe the best example of this ever, is the original iPod. Apple didn't sell you on 5 gigabytes of storage. I mean, who even knew what that meant back then? No, they sold you the benefit. They sold you the magic, 1,000 songs in your pocket. It's simple, it's visual, and you immediately get it. That's a story, not a spec sheet.
Look, this whole process can feel like a lot, so breaking it down into a timeline really helps. This 30-day countdown is a great way to think about it. A month out, you're getting your marketing materials ready. 10 days out, you're starting to build some buzz. In that final week, you lock down exactly how you're going to get the word out. And on the big day, everyone knows their job. It's about turning potential chaos into a well-oiled machine. Okay, you've hit the big red launch button. Awesome. But that's really just the beginning of the next big challenge, getting your first customers. And in today's world, you can't just throw money at ads and hope for the best. We need to be a little smarter, a little more targeted. So let me give you 3 modern strategies that are crushing it right now. First, forget huge influencers and think about micro creators. These are people with smaller but deeply engaged audiences that trust their recommendations. Second, go where your audience already hangs out. Niche subreddits, Discord servers, and become a real member of the community first. And third, product-led SEO. You create helpful content that solves a problem that your product also happens to solve. It's brilliant. Now, as people start trickling in, you absolutely have to track the right things. Forget vanity metrics like page views or total signups. They don't tell you much. You need to focus on what matters. How much does it cost you to get a new customer? That's your CAC. Of the people who sign up, what percentage actually do the key thing they're supposed to do? That's your activation rate. And how long does it take for them to have that aha moment? That's your time to first value. These numbers are the vital signs of your business. And that brings us to the final and I think most important piece of the puzzle. It's a mindset shift. All these steps we've talked about, validating, building, launching, they aren't a straight line that you finish. They're a circle. They're a continuous loop. This is the engine that drives all modern product development. You build something small. You measure how people react to it with those key metrics we just talked about. And then you learn from that data. And what you learn tells you exactly what to build next. See? It's a loop that just keeps going, getting smarter and better with every cycle. So here's the bottom line. Your launch isn't the final exam. It's not a pass-fail moment. It's the first day of school. It's the moment you finally start getting real data and real feedback from the people who matter most, your customers. So the real question isn't just, how do I launch? It's, what am I ready to learn next?